right, welcome everyone to today's Wizard World virtual experience. I'm Jerry Milani, and this is a treat for me and anyone who followed television in the 80s and the 90s and any time since. LA Law is the show, and we are fortunate enough to have nine of the stars of this ensemble cast. It was really a true ensemble cast and Wizard World virtual experience. We couldn't be more proud to have all these folks here and bring this to you, this free Q&A, an opportunity for you, the fans of this show and the fans of pop culture to really experience something while we're still going through difficult times here in the country and across the world. So we appreciate you guys taking time to join us today, and of course our 9 celebrities. Just want to get a couple of housekeeping things in first. Whether you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, go ahead to that chat. If you have questions for these folks, keep them as general as you can. We want to get everyone involved. We have moderators in each of those chats pulling out the best questions. Make sure you get those chats in, get those questions in as soon as you can. The opportunity, though, afterwards, if you want something a little bit more personal, a little bit better for you, we have those live video chats with each of these celebrities coming up after. Go to wizardworldvirtual.com for all of those opportunities. Each of these celebrities doing those. Also autographs that they'll be doing separately afterwards. Video recordings they'll be doing separately for you also. Also go to the Wizard World Vault. We have merchandise there from our shows, from pop culture. We have some great events coming up. Tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern time is the folks from the show Arrow. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock is the Originals. Thursday at 1 o'clock, Once Upon a Time. Then at 4 o'clock on Thursday, Star Wars. And Sunday, we have Caddyshack, a couple of the stars of Caddyshack at 4 o'clock. So go to Wizard World Virtual to learn everything about what's going on with Wizard World with the virtual experiences. We've been really excited and happy to bring these to you while we can't be doing shows in person, but you've met some of these folks in person as well that we've had from LA Law and from a lot of the other shows. So we're really excited that you were able to join us today, as well as these folks. And so right now, without further ado, I will bring on our 9 celebrities. This is going to be a fun one, folks, with 9 of us out here today. First, he has 50 plus credits, and you know him from NYPD Blue, from West Wing, from Star Wars. He played Victor Cifuentes on the series. He is Jimmy Smits.
Hey, Wizard World.
Welcome, Jimmy. So excited to have you here. So 250 plus credits for our next celebrity. He's been a guest at Wizard World before. You might know him as Roger Dorn in the movie Major League. Very similar character to the one that he played on LA Law, I think. He was also in Psych, in The Dentist. He played partner Arnie Becker. He is, of course, Corbin Burnson.
Hey, everyone.
He is. Love that background, Corbin.
Hi, Jimmy. How you doing, Kobe?
Also with nearly 100 credits, he was in Mad Men, Movie, Clash of the Titans. He played Michael Cusack. Here is Harry Hamlin.
Harry Hamlin.
Come on.
There he is.
There he is.
You guys have
A little cute. There he is.
Background. That's
In outer space.
Film, TV, theater star. Dirty Sexy Money, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Played Jonathan Rollins, the great Blair Underwood.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Blair?
He was in Showgirls, Dharma and Greg, General Hospital. He played the managing partner, Douglas Brackman. It's Alan Rachins.
Yeah.
All right. Go Alan.
Where am I? There I am.
There you are.
Everyone
I'm
hated
still in the
Douglas.
wings
we
here.
love Alan. So that's the okay, she was a star in theater, but also had a great standout film and television career. You remember her from Arthur, from Hill Street Blues. She played partner Ann Kelsey. It's Jill Eikenberry.
Hey,
Hi, everybody.
Jill.
Art certainly imitated life. As I introduced the next guest, was married in real life and, of course, in the program. 50 or more credits, also a stage star, was in Diner, Purple Rose of Cairo, Radio Days, played partner Stuart Markowitz, the great Michael Tucker.
Hey. Michael Tucker.
The Tuckerberries are complete.
Another very prolific character
Ah,
actor.
there I am. There I am.
Blues, 8 is Enough. She played
Now, let me ask you a
Abby
question. Is
Perkins.
this art or is this life? I can't.
I see you just fine. You look great, Michael.
I see you, yes.
Thank
And
you.
here is the great Michelle Green.
Well, let me come in. Let me come in. Here I am. There I am. Can you see
Yay!
me?
Hi, Michelle.
Hey.
Michelle?
And finally, also over 100 credits, Dead Air, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Gilmore Girls. She started as a secretary and became such an important part of the series. She was almost immediately made a regular. She played Roxanne Melman. It's Susan Rattan.
Yeah.
Hi, Susan.
Wow, we did that. We still have time left to do Q&A after all those intros. Amazing. So welcome, everyone. This is, as I said at the top, a true ensemble cast. What made this show, what made Stephen Bochco's show so successful is that 9 cast members here, all of relatively equal importance and had their moments in the shows. You know, I'll kind of go around, I see how it worked with just kind of having you guys answer, but just talk about the show being an ensemble cast and what it meant to the success of this series, that all of you had your moments.
Well, I think it's axiomatic that we all got along great. I mean,
Yeah.
on the set, when we were working on the set, it was truly a family. And I don't remember ever there being even one iota of conflict on the set between any of us.
No, me
Ever.
either. It was like you get this many actors, and we don't even have the entire cast because we had other characters that were always in, but you have that many actors together. It's so rare to have a group that actually gets along, and it was such a pleasure to go to work every day.
It was also everybody's first TV series except for Susan Day. So there was a great appreciation for this gift that we had going.
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
The inside thing is that where we really got together, you look at this view right here. This is a shot from where we had a tequila party, a margarita party at, before we started shooting. Let's just say we bonded. Very
I don't remember
knew everybody's
anything
secrets and vulnerabilities, and even if we wanted out, we couldn't have gotten out.
Was that before or after you bought the Corvette?
That was way before. The Corvette was when my head got swollen.
And we also had a great daddy, and I want to presence Richard Dysart, who's no longer with us. But was
Yes.
Yeah.
But
It started at the top. It started.
I still have
Stephen
his
Bochco
tie.
was even farther on the top. So
Yeah.
When he
Stephen
passed,
Bochco-
one of the
Stephen
amazing
Bochco.
things at his memorial service is that he had all of his ties he had saved his entire career, and his tie, each one of us was given a tie, and I wore his tie for a year. Every time I wore a tie for a year, and I got a lot of bunk for it from other people.
I think
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
as a group, since there was a heavy theater background for all of us.
Yeah.
We understood as a group. I remember the conference room scenes that we would have, once a week. The whole meaning of what an ensemble is, the players, right? And
Yeah.
I think that kind of tradition was passed on, and so that in any given week, I would know that I'm going to be holding the door for Harry in a case, but that Blair is going to be on the next soundstage working on his case for next episode, and that whole sense of ensemble was something that subsequent to the other jobs that I've had afterwards, I've not felt so strongly. So
I'll tell you, when you work on a series like this for this many years, and then say you go do another show or you do a guest shot on another show and you are horrified by the way it runs. I mean, I did a show with people who were on their cell phones until they banged the mark. And nobody said, put those phones down. I mean, if we'd had cell phones back then like we have now, we would have been in so much trouble if we had done something like that on LA Law.
Oh, everybody who was brought into the show was greeted as though you were a real part of the show, and especially Jimmy, you always did that first thing. It was really great. Nobody ever felt like they were worried about fitting in. You fit.
Yeah, that's true.
The door.
Another thing about the ensemble was that because you only work 2, sometimes 3 days a week, you were always fresh. You were never kind of run ragged. And there was an appreciation for the days off and for the fact that you're working again.
You know, biting off Susan, what you said, I was the new kid on the block in this group here. So I came on at the beginning of the second season.
You were the baby.
I was the baby.
Yeah.
But I was a nervous wreck because, you know, this was such a big hit and I didn't know what I was walking into in terms of personalities or egos. And, you know, it was absolutely just the opposite. And very quickly, you know, Jill, I don't know if you remember this, but in terms of the ensemble, I tell this story all the time, especially Michelle. Like I go into other sets since LA Law and it ain't nothing like home. I consider this home. This was home. But there was one day when we were in the conference room and there were usually 11 or 12 regular cast members at any given time. Each person has their single. So that would take what, 7-8 hours, half the day to shoot that. And there was one day when a PA forgot to tell Jill to be off camera because of if the camera's on Jimmy, all 11 of us, the other 10 are off camera saying our lines. And they forgot to tell you, Jill, that we're shooting the scene and you went off on her. You were insulted that they did not tell you. You said, look, we are a team. We are an ensemble. If one of us is on camera, then all of us are off camera. I have told that story and I have used that so many times since this. Like Jill Eikenberry taught me, let me be off camera.
Now, the other thing about that is, do you remember that occasionally, like if we had a quick turnaround, like if someone had to be back the next day, they would release you because they wanted to get you home for your turnaround. But if you had to be off camera, every one of us would stay, right? Nobody would say, oh, I've been released. I'm going home. Let the script supervisor read my lines, which they do on a lot of other shows. Every one of us would say, okay, I don't care. I'm off the clock now, but I'm going to stay because if I don't do my part on the other side of the camera, I'm not showing up, you know, for the other actor in the scene.
Or to even acknowledge that people would come to watch a courtroom, like Susan would have a really great courtroom scene. James Earl Jones was there, you know, working on that.
You come to work early.
People would come to watch the other, you know, the other case that was being done. It was that sense of ensemble was
but
beautiful.
we also had the crew. You know, we also had the crew would like the crew was often so excited about the scripts. I mean, this crew would be reading the scripts, you know,
Up in the
corner.
after.
Yeah. No.
The other thing is
great.
that we have this phenomenal around everything you're hearing, which is true, and every other cast says it, but this is absolutely true. We had this phenomenal success, so it just fueled all of that, and you know, it made us not responsible to it, but as a whole. But it's like if it's working this good and we're this friendly, let's just keep going. Let's take it as far as we can go. You know, I remember that. I mean, we've all been around other casts. It's great, and it's your cast and your castmates. But we had this other component, which was this
we did
enormous hit. You know,
the great thing is we still have it. You know, if we run into somebody today, or a few of us happen to meet or get together, it's the same feeling. It never goes away.
It's like this. It's like logging on to this today.
Yeah.
There's not even like a moment of like missing a beat, you know? It's like, oh, there's Jimmy. Oh, there's Corby. Oh, hey, Jill. And boom. Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, a big hello from Susan Day to everyone here today. I got in touch with her. She saw I did a play in New York in the fall, and she came to the play, and we spent a lot of time together. And she just wanted to know. I asked her to do this. She's in the Adirondacks. She didn't have time to do or something. But anyway, she said she wanted to tell everybody hello, and she loves everybody.
Right.
And we should also say, Larry Drake, you know.
Oh yeah, Larry.
Yeah, talk about Larry Drake. It's one of the things I wanted to talk about. What he did for the humanity of this show, and what an actor! What a tremendous performance.
Larry was
What an actor he
Yeah.
And he only came on for one episode originally, and
so great.
And all of a sudden it grew like a fungus, and he became the emotional center of the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The number of times I was asked, where did they get that mentally challenged guy to do that part?
Oh yeah, me too. People always
Did he
thought
learn the line?
I always thought they were talking
I always
about
said Corbin's
me.
been in the business for years.
Yeah.
A great component of the show was the fact that it was at that particular time, and LA, the whole mystique of Los Angeles. And I think that with regards to Larry, when he came on, the stories, I mean, the cases, we had important cases, but there was a kind of it grounded the show in another kind of way.
An emotional grounding.
Yeah. And the way he interacted with every character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
His dynamic with Corbin, his dynamic with Jimmy, it was a little different how each of us dealt with him. And I think it showed so much more of us as characters in terms of how we dealt with him. And it was the conspicuous consumption era, right? It was all like fancy cars and big hair and big clothes and da-da-da. And then he came in and was like this person.
Yeah.
Right. And
I talked very slowly to him so he would get it. And he knew I was talking down to him, and he was annoyed at me for doing that.
Yeah.
Right, and that person, I think the personality comes out through that. Like Harry, your character takes him to vote for the first time, and the pride that is on his face at the end when he votes, that's a product too of what each of your characters did is reflected a lot through working with Penny. So I thought that was I'm glad that you brought him up because he's an important part of the show, and sadly lost him a few years back. Some questions from fans. We have people from all over. I see someone from Australia watching at 3:30 in the morning. Little 07 says she's watching from Australia at 3:30 and love the cast. So thanks, Jude. Michael C is asking, saying we're going to get into this. The most shocking scene of the series probably is the elevator shaft with Rosalind.
Oh.
You guys know that was happening, and what was your reaction?
Nor did she.
He didn't know what was happening.
Nobody knew.
I was in the makeup trailer the morning they dumped the scripts in. I was on the right-hand side. She was in the hair department, and I heard a scream come from that end of the trailer when she got to that part.
I know. I was in the makeup trailer that day too, and I remember that.
Oh,
it was awful.
It was really shocking.
Diane,
it was water cooler moment. They wanted their ratings to go up, and they needed a water cooler moment. So,
and she was so great. She was so great as Rosalind Shays. She was such a great foil in there.
I also think it's one of the first shows to do that kind of thing where, you have somebody who's not a regular, but a regular cast member, and just get rid of it. Was it was representative of life, of the fragility of life, and I don't think Stephen and crew or David Kelly or whoever was writing at that point was afraid to address that. And I don't really remember before that any show that just killed off a familiar character.
British shows do that, but American shows don't do that very much, and so it's a shock when they do.
It's I think it was a component of that group's of the writing in terms of that 1-2 punch that the show would give. Something that very comedic and light and absurdist, and then boom.
Yeah.
Really that punch you with another story.
You're absolutely right. And I think that was what was really special about this show, was that it was really 2 shows in one. And David Kelly then went on, he was writing the show for most of the seasons. He then went on to bifurcate the idea that we had, because we had a serious side and a really comedic side. And he made Ally McBeal on The Practice. He made 2 shows out of one concept. But the great thing about LA Law is that you never knew whether it was going to be, hysterically funny or very emotional and filled with pathos.
Yeah. If you don't cry at the end of the Earl Williams saga, I don't know if you have a pulse. Like that's just, and again, it's a tribute to the actor, but also how well Harry, how well you portrayed, your character in that too. So I have and just in the spirit of you guys talking about how it seems like it just dropped back in together. Catherine Benoit asks who the biggest prankster was among you guys on the show. Any stories?
Dick Dysart was the prankster.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dick Dysart.
And you couldn't stop him.
Well, in the middle of an emotional scene in the conference room, he would lower his false teeth. And,
he was always doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, he always put a lot of gum under the conference room table so that people would, when they put their hands under there, would get stuck.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
he's sweet, man. Yeah.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah. Any other memories of Richard? I know that he was not the same person as you saw as
No.
the
Oh, not at all.
very different.
Not at all.
He was
No.
a devil. He was a devil and a very funny guy. Very funny.
Yeah.
It was
He was
really
laughing
fun.
so much. I remember.
I liked having him in my corner at the conference room table because you never
I
knew.
don't know. I know that was the other thing about those conference room scenes. You had like your special relationship with the people in your area. So I was like across from Jimmy,
Yep.
and next to Harry, and I had Alan on the other side. And so I always felt like this is my little, my little tribe over here.
Inner family, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that I had Jill across from me, Richard
Yeah.
to my right, and Michael. Michael, we're on my right or left, but it's like that corner back,
Mhm.
Yeah.
back to that
And
table.
Corbin was on my right.
And Harry
Yeah.
was across from me,
Yeah.
Eating a bagel.
eating a
And the,
bagel.
and the fruit bowl was in the middle.
Yeah, well, I couldn't
Oh,
help
yeah, the fruit
myself,
bowl.
you know.
Brought in by Benny.
After a while, they decided they had to cut the table in half because it was taking so long to get around the table. It was such a big table. So they cut it in half to try to get, and sometimes they used 2 cameras eventually, didn't they? They tried
Right.
to get
That
other
took
people.
forever. Now
Yeah.
today they'd used 5 cameras.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And a couple of
We were that was
GoPros
back in the
too.
day. By the way, that was back in the day of 1 film camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
Heavy,
yeah.
big, heavy camera.
One thing about this series, I think, makes it so memorable and still so important 30 years later is the issues that you guys tackled. And I think each of the characters had many moments, but maybe in particular, you guys might want to share something that an issue that your character brought to the front. That was something that was going on in the 80s and early 90s, and maybe is still going on today that you guys tackled, that you were proud of.
I had a wonderful opportunity in one of the episodes to deal with anti-Semitism, and it was beautifully written piece, and it's still what people talk to me about the most when I run into people in the street or at a restaurant or something like that. So that was the one for me, I think.
They don't talk about the Venus butterfly?
Well, they do. They do. But that was
That's
not
a different kind of issue. Yes.
That's
That
not
was
an
something
issue.
totally different. Yeah.
That's just about becoming a sex god.
That's one of my favorite memories of being in New York and watching that on the television, us together at your apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw a scene the other day, an old scene, and I guess the theme was racial awkwardness because my wife Sheila invited Jimmy for dinner one night to introduce him to our housekeeper. We thought it was like a great match, and it was like horrendously awkward, the entire thing, and he couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah, it was something that happened with me with Benny, which was obviously still going on today. Is one of my favorite scenes, besides the numerous scenes Susan and I had together that were just always made life exquisite. I had a scene with Benny in a stairwell where he thought he had raped somebody. And here you have Arnie Becker, who, I'm not saying Arnie Becker ever raped anybody, but he was about that as far out there sexually and overt as anybody could be in those times. Today he'd probably be in a lot of trouble. Benny, well, Arnie Becker would not survive in today's world.
No, Arnie Becker would have been brought down a long time ago.
I remember Benny being accused of thinking he had raped somebody, and I had to say, that's not rape. That's not rape, Benny. But it threw back on me, Arnie Becker, the things that he had done. And obviously that has its its thread runs through today, but it still remains one of my favorite scenes. It's one that's never talked about much, and maybe it's only remembered here, but and Larry was exquisite in it. I mean, as always. I mean, there wasn't a thing Larry, besides just the character he created, just the dynamics of the emotion and the place he went to within the confines of that character were
he was so great in that role. He was so great.
I think for me, there were 2. One was one episode where Jonathan got stopped and harassed by the cops, which is very relevant today. I remember seeing some guy on an elevator. He said, "Does that? I don't believe that could even happen to someone like you." It's like, first of all, that did happen to me.
I
It
remember
happens all
that.
the time, and it's so relevant today, of course. But the second thing was there's an episode where I think Michelle and I did that together, where I was really pushing for the firm to divest out of South Africa, to not work with any companies that were working in South Africa. I later did work in South Africa, and I met a man, Jeffrey Redebe, who was in prison with Nelson Mandela, and he said we watched that episode in prison, and we knew and we discussed. I said they see us on the outside world. They know what we're going through on the outside world. So it's just, in some ways we're in our little bubble. We come to work, we're actors, we do our job, but because of what this show did, it dealt with issues and causes, and it could be funny and irreverent at the same time. But it touched people. It moved people. It affected people. The first lesbian kiss. Our interracial relationship, Michelle.
Yes, you and me. Yeah. No, I did a when in that year when Abby left the firm and had her own law firm. I was gone for like 6 months, where I was having my own law firm and taking on different types of cases. And I did a case with this terrific actor who's now on Bosch. If anybody watches that show that's adapted from the Michael Connolly books. I think his name is Lance Reddick. He's a spectacular actor. And he played a guy who had some grievance against someone. And he was kind of not really honest about it. So when I take his case, I realize at a certain point that he's not telling me the truth. And I drop him as a client. And he goes completely insane. And he shows up after hours at the office, like intending to kill me with a lead pipe. And that guy is such a great actor. And I just remembered shooting that scene, and the idea that you've branched out on your own, you're a young woman, you have your own your own office in a not great neighborhood, you're staying there after hours. And the idea of that, that you no longer have the safety of like a big corporate law firm, right? Where you have to go through a front desk and the whole thing. And I remember that. I always remember that episode in terms of the risk that you can be under, And but he was so great in it. He was fabulous.
And you had to shoot him.
And I had to shoot him. Yes, I had to shoot him. Yeah.
He was going to kill you with that tire iron.
Yeah.
So we have some questions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The episode I remember the best was the one where I had to play opposite of how I felt about the character, because I had to represent the hospital who wanted to intervene in the birth of a baby. A woman was dying of cancer, and she wanted to have her own birth. She wanted to give birth naturally, and I was representing the hospital who wanted to intervene, and she was desperate not to do that. And I had to play somebody who didn't give the woman her choice. And it was one of the hardest things I had to do. And Bachko said to me, this is what lawyers do all the time. So, make this work. And it was really painful. And a lot of people talked to me about that episode because, it went against everything I believed.
I think for a lot of people, the fact that every show, every case doesn't wrap up with we win and everybody goes home happy, and lots of issues and lots of things continue on. Sometimes you have more questions at the end of an episode than you had answers, which was made this real. It made this really feel like that people felt like they worked at this firm with you, or that you were their friends. And Harry, you mentioned before about water cooler talk. This was a water cooler talk show before there were water cooler talk shows.
Yeah.
Everyone on Friday morning after they watched it was interested in talking about what they just saw. Some more questions from our fans out there. We have John Sushik, and he asks, what are the chances of bringing the show back? I know they had the reunion movie, and then there was talk a couple years ago before Stephen's passing of bringing this back. Is there any word that you guys can share about a potential reunion or a reboot?
You're seeing it.
It's right here.
This
right
is
here, right now.
I'm sure the check's in the mail too, guys.
Obviously today it'd be extraordinary to revisit it. I think, Billy Finkelstein wrote a wonderful script for a potential reboot. But sometimes the moment is past, and I think it'd be better served to get a younger, newer fresh, vibrant cast of characters together and use the same format. But you know, all of us get, you know, I don't know. I think, you know, yeah. It just
We're
doesn't.
mostly past retirement age. You know, we wouldn't be
Some
in
of
that.
us, not all of
I
us.
want to interrupt
Not
that
all of
social
us, not
security
all of
thing.
us.
No,
I've got to make money for college. I have a
I'm
13-year-old.
old enough for all of you.
Billy
Not with that.
Finkelstein is doing great work on The Good Fight right now.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
that show. He's just,
Yeah.
it's terrific. He's
I think the format would be great, though. You know, we were talking a moment ago about, you know, nobody was right, nobody won, nobody lost. One of the things I've really found through everything we're going through, all the current stuff, is everybody's got an opinion on it. Everybody has a certain way they want it to end up or be, but there's so many voices about the way, you know, we go about it. It just is. It's the beauty of our democracy. It's the failure of our democracy that we all have this ability to have a voice. And one of the things I always said about LA law was you throw any index card on the table, abortion, Christian Science, whatever it is, each one of us so beautifully had a voice that people out there recognized. And I think that was really, you know, one of the things to show. And that's going to leave you at the water cooler deciding who you want to go with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention the law is never right always.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, and you know, I think we forget this probably, maybe, I don't know, because we were in this show and it was this great experience. But prior to LA Law, shows about lawyers were like completely black and white. You know, it was Perry Mason who was always right. The person he defended was always innocent. It wrapped up neatly at the end of every episode. And then suddenly you have this show about all these lawyers, these, you know, kind of charismatic, complicated people in this big splashy city. And there's these enormous gray areas all the time, right? And I think that was one of the, and since then, of course, law shows are like that. But this was the first one where you really saw, like you were talking, Jill, and there's that great one that I think it was that case. Was Jimmy the one that did that case with the couple who were fighting each other, but they were actually united in, like their son had died or something?
Oh,
and
yeah,
you see at the
yeah,
very
yeah.
end of the episode, they hold hands in the elevator.
Yeah.
Oh, that was there are all these moments that you just didn't see the law presented that way prior to this show, you know?
And also, I mean, to have a secretary as a primary character, and for that character to make a difference in secretaries, as they were called at the time, watching the show. I mean, the whole Ray's episodes about "Give me what I'm worth." You know, Corbin, that got people hated you for not giving Roxanne the money. And it made a difference in their lives everywhere. They got bold, they got brave. They went in and said, I deserve what I deserve. I was very, very proud of being a part of that.
Me too.
So we have a few minutes left. I want to remind everyone that the availability of those live video chats up until the bottom of the hour. Go to wizardworldvirtual.com for those, for the autographs, for the recorded videos. Those are also available. We'll have those up for, you know, a little bit longer, but those video chats are going to start right after. So if you want one of those, go right now and pick one or more of these amazing actors, actresses who, you know, made this show what it was, and get some time with them, because we, you know, it's hard with 9 of you here and with only 45 minutes or so in. We use so many things we'd love to cover. If you have more questions, and we had some folks, Wild Man Beyond, Richard McClellan, Brad Whitworth, we appreciate the questions that you guys put out there. I just want to kind of go around the room and just let everybody kind of, you know, talk to something that they're working on now, an issue that, you know, that you want to discuss, a project you have, anything like that. And I'm just going to introduce each one individually. So, so you each have some time here. So Jimmy, I'll start with you.
We're in the middle of a pandemic and many more things. So in terms of our business is going to change radically in terms of the way we work and dealing with subject matter that needs to be dealt with. So I'm looking forward to it. That retirement thing, I'm not hearing that.
Right.
Corbin?
Well, just on a pitch promotional effort, we got Psych 2, the movie Lassie Come Home, coming out July 15th on the new Peacock Network, the night it premieres. Woohoo! And on another note, it's something I tell my kids and I tell friends, is as down as we are with everything that's going on, I, you know, maybe you guys recognize this in me. I've always sort of felt it, that in these darkest of times, these darkest of moments of who we are as human beings, personally, as a civilization, I see opportunity. And I think when you're feeling down and you're feeling just absolutely squeezed out by everything that's going on, just take a moment and ask what now can be made better because of this time. And I just would seize the moment. And much like we did, I'd love to bring it right back to LA Law. It's like, it's the water cooler moment. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do we want? And this is the time to make that happen. So, out of the darkness, there is light.
Well said. Well said. Harry?
Well, I'll go along with that. And, today George Floyd is being laid to rest. And I think, we have all been really thoughtful in the last couple of weeks about the changes that are taking place and are going to take place. And I know will take place now that we've woken up in a certain way in and around these issues. And I'm very optimistic too about many things, about climate change. I think a lot of you guys know that I spent the last 30 years working on aneutronic fusion, and started the company Tri-Alpha Energy, which is now TAE Technologies. And I think, well, here's our logo.
Wow, out of space.
Which is a flying pig.
Just pluck that out of the stars, man.
They've always said that, I came right out of the stars, that fusion will happen when pigs fly. But I can tell you that there will be pork in the trees before you know it, because it's going to happen. So we're going to have a whole new clean energy source within the next decade. And so that's what I've been working on climate change for all this time. But now, with all the things that have come up in the last few weeks, and with COVID and all that, there's a lot more things that we need to pay attention to as well. There you go.
Blair?
Nice. Ooh, well, I have a production company, so we're juggling a lot of different things, but I don't know what the next step's going to be. My dad asked the other day, "What are you working on now?" I said, "Dad, the whole world is paused right now." So I don't know what that next step's going to be. But I would tell you that I'm encouraged where we are, Corbin, to your point. I've had frankly, a lot of my white friends call me in the last couple of weeks saying, "What's going on? How do you feel about this? How are you doing about it?" And I'm upbeat. I mean, I feel the pain, but you have to understand, as an African American in this country, we've been feeling that pain for a long time. I'm upbeat because I'm like, wow, finally, you all see what we've been talking about. I mean, listen, Stephen Botch was on that just back that episode 30 years ago. We've been talking about that forever. So it's a very encouraging time, because there's unanimity, there's solidarity, there's understanding like never before in terms of just racial biases and inequities. And that's a beautiful thing. So I'm optimistic about that. I'm optimistic about what we're going to do, Corbin, to your point again, in this industry, what it's going to look like. And Jimmy, it's going to be different for a while, at least. But I'm encouraged by it, because people are leaning in to find out what that next step's going to be when pigs start flying. So I'm excited about it.
And that LA Law, if it were running right now, would have tackled this, again.
Oh yeah.
The LA riots, like it's done other issues.
Whatever the issue with it. Go back, you'll find this story. That's what.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Alan?
Well, I'm impressed with how articulate everybody is. I'm feeling sort of tongue-tied as a result. But the only thing I want to say is thank you, General Mattis. That was like a fantastic thing that happened this week. And the whole fear that the Army might be behind Mr. T and he wouldn't leave if he wasn't reelected has really been just kind of dammed down with General Mattis. So thank you, sir.
Jill?
Well, on a smaller level, but no less significant, I am helping a high school, Martin Van Buren High School, which is a high school in Queens where everybody's really compromised. And our daughter Allison just submitted a recipe the kids and their families who really need it. So you can go to martinvanburenhighschool.com and figure out how to buy that cookbook for $10. They have a matching grant, and they're going to raise a lot of money to help these families who are in dire, dire straits. So do that.
Very important. Thank you. Michael, besides that, which is
I too am feeling incredibly optimistic. I talk to people sometimes who say, when are we going to get back to normal? When are we going to get back to the world we know? And I don't want to get back to that world. That world was not working so well. It was not working well at all. And I think this is an enormous moment in our time, in our history. And it's an enormous opportunity. And I think we're going to take it this time. I think it's a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. Michelle?
I want to echo what Michael just said. It's, when the pandemic hit, I have an elderly mother who is has a very serious health condition, and I have a 13-year-old son. So I was like sandwiched right in the middle of tremendous anxiety for my mother's well-being, and suddenly having a 13-year-old who's at that age where he wants to separate from me, and suddenly he's home every single day with me. And I have gone, like I think a lot of people, there have been days where I'm really not okay, where I feel the weight. And that was just with the pandemic. But now, the civil unrest that we're seeing in the country, it comes out of such tremendous pain. But that has led me to feel so much more optimistic that I had this moment a few days ago where I thought we are in, as you said, Michael, we are in this incredible pivotal moment in humanity. Not just in terms of the pandemic, where we suddenly are confronted with our mortality in a way that we don't live with every single day thinking about, and how do we adjust, like what our real priorities are. But then we see now the possibility of real change. This is not a localized protest like we had in 1992 in Los Angeles. It's worldwide. It doesn't stop. And now we have a chance to possibly have real police reform in this country. And to begin to level this field, because, when you hear people say, oh, everybody starts at the same starting line in this country. And that's not true. That's not true at all. And it's so great that we could now possibly see really significant change across like a broad base of social culture and whatnot. So that I'm really excited by.
That's amazing. Susan?
Yeah, I think this time has been so difficult because I'm captive at home, and I watch everything and I listen to everything. And it's like my heart is breaking, and I feel lifted up at the same time. The emotions are so powerful from both sides. I'm here in my home. My son lives with me. He's biracial. So guiding him through this time and what his future will look like, it's been a real challenge. I feel hopeful. I feel like change is possible. And I honestly didn't feel like that for a while.
I know.
I'm glad to see people standing up and like Mattis that you mentioned, Alan, that people are standing up and taking a position. I feel like change is possible. And on a lighter note, there's a character that I did in children's theater a long time ago called Citronella, the Tooth Fairy. And I just got, we're going to make it. We're going to make the show, a children's show, a stop motion show for a studio, which will start production in the fall. So sometimes, you hold on to things, they can really happen. I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
That's amazing. I think that kids need that. We need that more than ever. Something where, any or all of you are involved in that. We're so important to so many people watching this show, and in roles past and after. You guys are all amazing actors, and to have all of you have come together for the show, and then to come together for this, and to, give fans out there. I mentioned we had fans from all over the world checking in, telling us that they were they were part of this. I just can't say from a Wizard World perspective how excited we are, and just so happy that you could all join us today and be with us as we continue these experiences and try to just bring a little bit of our show into people's homes. And I can't think of a better show and a better group of people to have done this with. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, everybody.
So
Thank you.
for Wizard World Virtual Experiences, for Jimmy Smits, Corbin Burnson, Harry Hamlin, Blair Underwood, Alan Rachins, Jill Eikenberry, Michael Tucker, Michelle Green, and Susan Rattan. Again, those live video chats, autographs, recorded videos still available, but we appreciate everyone being with us today. And guys, thank you so much for taking time today.
Right.
Absolutely. Love you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
It was
Bye,
great.
Harry.
Well, again, we appreciate everyone across the world, across the globe, who's been following us on Twitch and on Facebook and on YouTube. Those live video chats are still available for a little bit longer. We'll have everyone available either at the bottom of the hour or the top of the next hour. Just check that wizardworldvirtual.com. And thanks so much for taking some time today to be with us. And be sure to join us. We have some future Wizard World virtual experiences coming up today at 7 o'clock. It's Arrow, that's Eastern time. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, it's the Originals. Thursday at 1 o'clock, Once Upon a Time. We've returned a second time to Once Upon a Time. Thursday at 4 o'clock, it's Star Wars. And then Sunday at 4 o'clock, Caddyshack. Those are all Eastern times, and everything is right there on wizardworldvirtual.com. I'm Jerry Milani for Wizard World Virtual Experiences, and thanks so much for being with us today. We'll see you again really soon.